Today we're at the halfway point of a 6-episode sprint to redesign the This Week In website. Stick around and watch us work. Welcome to episodio número 47 of This Week in Web Design. The big question is, are we going to make this 6-week sprint? So let's get started on doing that. As every week, we have Aure Creative Director Extraordinaire. Thank you for being here. And we have Jacob Pitassi, back by popular demand, who is a Drupal developer extraordinaire, and he is guiding us through this rebuild, or it's not a redesign, it's actually the building of the redesign that Aure and I have been doing for the last 20 weeks. So if you're just catching the show, what we've been doing on the show is doing a real project with a real client. Go back to episode 20, and you can see episode 23, producer Ryan, producer 24? Somewhere around there, and you can start watching the process as we're going through it. And now we're in the development phase, and we're actually building the site in Drupal using Agile. So every week we have a 1-hour period where we work on the site. So I want to get started immediately with two things. One, producers program. Aure, what are your thoughts? I mean, on the interaction we've been having, especially uploading files and helping people.
I think it's great. I mean, I think people have been really excited about it. You know, when we put some stuff out there and people download it.
Horsepower from Horsepower Calculators.
Exactly.
One of our viewers who actually you did the redesign for his site and put the files up there for him. Style guides. Somebody asked me about style guides, and there's some questions coming up on Twitter about Scrum and about selling Scrum, which we can talk about a little bit later. But if you don't know about the producers program, you can join at thisweekinwebdesign.com. Thisweekinwebdesign.com, the title of the show, and you're going to see the different levels. And really what you're getting is access to the show assets, and you're getting access to us. There is an awesome back channel where we're chatting about different issues. People might be having sales, if it's an agent, if it's a freelancer or a boutique agency that's putting their stuff together, or all the different topics that come up in the back channel. So go there and check it out. And
I think a style guide for web and for identity would be nice to put out there for people.
We put two up in the producer, actually at the base level of producers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the files at the higher level of second producer and producer, the actual working files, so that people can actually just reconfigure those. They can reconfigure or use them for themselves. So let's get started and do what would traditionally be a Scrum call. But in this case, we're going to do a very brief period, let's say the next 5 minutes, of catching up where we are, so that both ourselves, obviously, but also our viewers can see where we are. Just go through each person. Starting with you, Jacob. Where are we? Show us what you got.
Well, we where we left off last time was getting a better understanding of the episode and actual show, like defining the two, because there's an actual episode and then there's the show. Like
we had the confusion between episode and show.
So
early on.
What I'm going to be finishing up today is the actual show page, where it would be like a landing page for This Week in Web Design, which will then you can click on it, get to an episode.
Well, scroll down the page so we can take a look at it.
So this is the actual episode page that you would land on.
And the things that we've done here so far, we selected a theme, the first sprint. So we're using a pre-existing theme and then changing it with the different assets and the different fonts and the different things that we've developed in the identity. Scroll down.
Yeah, no problem.
So we have then, the title of the episode, description, commenting, which we could probably move down a little bit. And then on the right, we have other things. And Aure, do you have any of the design files? So that we can
I
see
have
the
everything
comparison?
open on my desktop. There you go. So this is what I've been doing over the last however many weeks we've been working on this. We put together a couple pages, which we've handed over to Jacob, and Jacob knows like whatever assets he needs, he just needs to ask, and we'll provide it. And then I took the template and I cleaned it up. I took everything out because I imagine the next thing we need to work on is the homepage. So, you know, once we get that sketched out, I can start like just fleshing it out in Photoshop.
So what I'll do today probably is review some of the strategic documents from the beginning, and we've kind of done that every so often,
Right.
just to make sure that, you know, whatever little bit we can mold it towards the
users.
Towards the users and to
Right.
what we've been trying to accomplish. And the goal is really ultimately to, when we break the fourth wall and talk to our viewers, to you, is to show you some of the things, how it works, like just us working back and forth.
Right.
So what's the other page? We have 2 pages actually completed.
Let me.
There's an episode page, which is when you go, I'm sorry, there is let me write this down because I don't want to get confused again. There's an episode page and the show page.
Right.
So episode is it episodes?
Episode.
I'm sorry, the show
One
page is the
episode.
general page.
Right.
The episode is one episode. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, just trying to get that straight. So show is our show, This Week in Web Design, for example, which is the one we're doing. All right, so
Yeah, and
let's
this
see
is
the
the comp
episode.
for it, but I mean, right now I have the episode list, which need little thumbnail pictures to start showing up from
below.
from the
so,
YouTube
So if you scroll up, you can
video.
see.
Right, but what I need to do next is get the actual picture that'll show. Yeah.
So what does the PSD look like?
Let's swing over here. So we have this, you know, nice picture up here with sponsored by and stuff like that.
So are there any things when you're translating as a developer between Photoshop into a template? What are the things that you really hate when designers deliver files to you?
Not being in layered, like a layered PSD, I get that a lot where the text and everything is just,
Flat.
you know, flat, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? You know, especially when I'm trying to figure out what size the font should be, you know, what font it should be, because I can't tell what font's what.
Right.
And
What's your preference as far as format? Like,
For a PSD?
if I give you an Illustrator, are you
I
okay with
prefer
that?
PSD. Just, I mean, they're easier to work with as far as turning off layers, and you know, Illustrator definitely awesome and powerful, but you know, a
Right.
PSD in Photoshop is kind of simpler because I'm not going to be changing anything. I'm just turning stuff on and off and pulling out the ruler and measuring things out.
Great.
And it's more standard. So recently I got someone to deliver some pages for us in a collaborative environment, or in a collaboration, meaning at the client side in a PDF form from InDesign. So I've been seeing that more frequently, people designing websites in InDesign.
Yeah.
From a production standpoint, you know, you've been doing this for a really long time. I've been doing this for a long time.
I said it a while back, like the first time I saw it, I thought it was like the wackiest thing in the world, like to use InDesign for it, but recently, you know, I mean, it's a page
It's
layout.
kind of okay, but then the issue becomes, you know, how does
It's
the
the handoff.
developer...
The handoff is the issue, but it is a page layout software, and you are designing pages, so I guess it makes some sense on some level, but for developers, have you ever gotten an InDesign file?
No, not yet.
Thankfully,
not yet.
no.
Yeah, I would probably not even look at it and
Right.
just kick it back and say it's not a PSD.
It's not a PSD.
not a
And for
PSD.
example, recently also on a website that we're redesigning, the design team delivered to us Illustrator files, and then I had to have a production person go through all of them, convert them all to Photoshop, reorganize the layers, and
It's a lot of
do
work.
production, which is a lot of work. We basically doubled up some of the time.
Right.
Right.
So,
and, you
but
know,
Illustrator is quicker, and you can do cool moves, and you
That's
can make
true.
it more asymmetric. So systemizing is harder in Illustrator, I think. You can do it.
You can do it. I mean, I think Illustrator is great for sketching, but then once you're going to do the final production file, then you need to shift over. And some assets will translate well between the two, like exporting. Some won't. Like typography is always better if you just set it in Photoshop from the get-go.
But Flash, which you know, again, it's down but not out. It's better in Illustrator because it's vector.
Because
but
it's a
sometimes
vector,
people like
yeah.
to render it, meaning they say, well, it's better to have the asset as a
That's true.
PNG inside Flash than even as a vector, depending on what the type of asset. So
Right.
a lot of nuances. We don't have to go necessarily into every single one. But for our viewers that are starting out, so you know, there's different stratas. You have the people who are starting out and are beginning students of web design. Then you have a strata slightly higher up, which is a freelancer, somebody who's already familiar with a lot of the production. And we can talk a little bit more about the nuances of collaborating and working back and forth. One of the things for freelancers are two things. One, buying domains for their clients. The other is keeping track of their time. So we talked last week about, in last week's episode, about how powerful Chrometa is.
Yeah.
And I also still kind of every I think about it every day when I get my domain expiring notices from GoDaddy. 10% off from $40 purchase if you go to GoDaddy.com for the first 10 minutes. For the first 10 minutes of this episode? Right now?
No, that's when I wanted you to read it.
Oh, you have 10 minutes right now. Go to GoDaddy and actually do that. That's awesome. It works really well for Guilt and for all the other websites that do shopping. So I made it in the first 10 minutes, 20 seconds after the 10 minutes.
So what's the deal again? It's what?
It is $10 off a $40 purchase to GoDaddy.com. Remind me during the episode, I need to renew a few, and the code is Web40. So if you use I'm going to actually do see if I can make it actually during the episode.
Yeah, did we figure out how much we think $40 can actually get of yours?
Of my actual domains that I'm registering?
Could you actually get for $40?
I'm not sure exactly 100%, but I'm going to log into my GoDaddy account in a minute. Don't bring it up on screen until until I'm there. But login is actually pretty easy. I like that about GoDaddy that you're in. I have 22 domains expiring. Damn it. So new .coms are $11. A .com transfer $7.49. So that could get you 3 domains basically. For
3 domains and $10 off.
$10 off, so you're basically getting them for like $9. Is that right? Is that right?
If you spend $44, you get 3, but then $10 off.
Dang, that's awesome.
Good. That's a lot.
That's pretty good. And you know, domains. If you can see my screen, I have a ton of domains, and these are the ones that are expiring, and some of them are really important, like Conquering Babel. So right here, it lets me add them. So groupschool.net spelled right. Do I want to keep it, Aure? Add.
Group.net?
No, group school. Yeah, I don't want that one to expire. That one's registered forever.
Group like spelled the right way? No, we don't need that.
Like Conquering Babel, which is a title for a book that I want to do. It's like the whole confusion of doing this collaboration.
Right, the language thing.
Yeah, the language thing.
Totally.
Grouprules.net, grouptools.com, and .net. Like I feel like letting go of the .nets, of the .coms, because we already use .net, but they're really valuable.
I think that's
like
fine.
Somebody else gets them. All right, so the tool's pretty easy.
Tools is good to have, for sure.
Yeah, no, group tools for sure. That's actually going to be awesome. And group rules, I don't like it if it's spelled regular. I'm just going to get the ones that are...
Group rules sounds like we rule.
Well, it's actually rules, like, hey, the 10 rules to do this or that. Anyway, I'll keep on doing this during the show. Group Fu, like Kung Fu.
I like that.
That one is awesome.
My favorite one.
Yeah. All right, so Aure, what are you doing during the episode, during this 1 hour of our 6th sprint?
I want to get started on the homepage.
Okay, what do you need to get started on the homepage?
Just a little bit of definition. I'm not really sure if we ever sketched it out in wireframe format.
We haven't, no, really.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Okay.
So let's get some of the strategic stuff open. So what are your thoughts in terms of, well, one of the things that we left it for later, right? We never necessarily kind of went in and sketched it out, which is not necessarily uncommon. We have the 4 user types. We have, you know, the career switcher.
Right.
We have the startup guy who's like itching to either do his own startup or already is doing his own startup, like Robert Haydock and some other people that are already doing startups out there. There is the student who is in school or graduated, and you know, someone that's a perfect example of that. You know, from a few shows ago, leaving, you know, a graduate school because you're not learning enough. And I've actually seen that comment made a few times about people learning more online than in their graduate programs. Is there an executive person in terms of in our so I'm going to the redesign. I'm going back. So one of the reasons why it's really great to do these strategic documents is because you can kind of keep the continuity of what you're doing versus, you know, oh, let's just go in whatever direction the project leads us. So here I have, actually you can show my screen right now. It's okay. One is, you know what's interesting in terms of Chrometa? Last week I was in Washington, D.C. At 2 companies, or at a company that Street Sense and Tasty Concepts, which is a company that several companies that I've merged. And during my 1 hour kind of meeting or presentation with them about Agile, Chrometa came up to ask, you know, hey, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, wow, we use Chrometa. And I was like, they were really kind of...
so wait, they saw it on your...
On my computer. I'm in the middle of a presentation and it popped up.
And you guys started high-fiving.
We started high-fiving and talking about Chrometa, and they use it. And they actually, they're a studio their studio, really cool creative people figuring out kind of some of these organizational things. And I was really happy to see that they were using Chrometa. So for
Did
the
they say what they liked about it? Was there anything in particular that they
Well,
never had it before and now they have?
no, specifically the issue of how it actually tracks time.
Mm-hmm.
One person in the room made the comment about, oh my God, it's seeing everything I do. And I'm like, that's great.
That's a great thing.
That's a great thing for me because I forget.
Right.
I don't want to have to remember. Okay, I'm lazy, I'm ADD, great. So they like that, and then they like the organization features. They're going to be rolling out new features on how you organize your time, and I'm really looking forward to checking those out. And also reporting and group reporting and stuff like that for me is important, so I can see projects as a whole, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to.
For me, like the confidence thing is huge. Like just having that backup, like just in case anybody says anything, it's like, here's my Chrometa report, and that's just that,
That's interesting. If you ever get into an argument with a client about,
like really, did you
really,
spend that
did you
much
just spend that
time?
much
Sure,
time on that?
I'll send you my.
Here's my
Chrometa
report of what I was doing.
Yeah, it seems like it's, for me, I just started using it. It's almost as groundbreaking as when I started doing like online banking at the end of the year. I
Right.
do my taxes and
Right.
I just have, here's all the deposits, here's all the major expenditures. Like, I feel like it's almost as important as that now.
I think
I'm
that's
literally,
key.
Not
I
even
mean,
thinking about it anymore, where it's just like, oh, I don't have to worry about tracking it because I already have it. Like, it's
exactly.
actually-
And like, for example, like what we talked about this last week, like I'm doing a design in Photoshop, but I'm constantly going back to the browser or whatever to look at a reference, to read stuff. Like it's tracking that. And like if I spent 5 minutes in Photoshop and 30 seconds in that, like that 30 seconds over and over the day, it's like
adds
a couple
up.
hours.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
It kind of like it efficiently kind of gathers all of your, like what that little bit of steam that's getting out of the steam
There you go.
engine. And
It's reducing waste.
It's reducing the waste.
Yeah.
I could go back and audit a week and get a sense of, look, here's everything from a billing standpoint.
Yeah.
And I realized actually now that I'm looking at it that for me specifically, I need to increase our rates. So last week we talked about this and I made the decision to go to variable rate versus
Fixed scope,
well,
fixed rate.
No. Variable rate meaning instead of calculating a fee or project with blended rate so that it's easier. So you take the highest and the lowest, you blend them,
Right.
and you multiply everything times that. No, just actually the value proposition. But instead of having a bunch of roles, just do partner, senior, and associate, and that's legal. That's a legal firm. That's how legal firms do it.
So you're not giving them like a fixed amount?
No,
Or-
well, the hourly for me is $250 versus the blended rate of $150.
Got it.
That came from two things. One, from talking to some colleagues that are really experienced and how their time is very valuable when they're coming in and consulting for a company. And you've seen me doing it now, where you coming in and helping a company figure out their project, set it up, structure it, train them in Scrum, do all that stuff. That's not just creative director.
Totally.
That's like ninja.
Right.
So we'd have ninja. Actually, that's what we should do. Ninja
so-
rate.
Well, that's group food right there.
Damn, you got it right there. That's a group food. So our rate card's called group food.
Group food card.
That would be funny. And there's a URL just for it. All right, so for the homepage, we need to design, or we need to look at some of the strategic components. And let's just design it now with index cards.
I mean, I think what you were just saying was key.
I veered
about
off completely from that, by the way, like totally ADD'd out and went off on
That's
something
fine.
else.
I mean,
But go ahead.
I'd say like entry points for each type of user would be kind of, I mean.
Okay, so let's
that's a
recap
good
the
thing.
users, and again, just confirm them from our inception phase. Here's the client kit. The latest one is from 08/31, so that's 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Here they are. Here's bring them up on screen if we can. Jeff McDonald, the super fan, and he said a startup. The big needs: resources, reading materials and recommendations, easy way to request topics, and easy way to have quotability. That's a cool thing. So there should be a quote on the homepage from whoever, from Jason or from someone. Who hosts This Week in Sales?
Kevin Gaither.
From Kevin, or from This Week in Social, or from
Yeah, I mean,
Pensado's Place.
Every show, the goal of the network is to have some type of tip or trick or tactic that you can use as soon as you finish watching the show. So that's the general idea behind the quote.
Love it. So let's have a quote on that page, and then we'll figure out with the development, what the implications of that are. And then really the resources part for him. I mean, and let's just do a laundry list because we might not have the ability to put everything in there. So for the student, they want practical truth and authenticity and organized shows. They want to see a grid of, that's actually, I think, the number one thing. Organize them. Instead of organizing them right now, it's just random on the current homepage. Why don't we organize them by like some sort of
by your profile.
So well, by the profiles. Oh wait, you know what? That's the simplest way to organize them. But no, the question is how do you, because our shows on the network are not segmented by we're not segmenting the shows in a grid, and we're saying here's content for students, or for new, or for what would you call it? That's the however you want to call it. That's the entry level content. That's what I'm trying to get to. Then content for a little bit more experience, like for example, the super fan is going to be a little bit more sophisticated than the student. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like Robert Haydock is far more sophisticated than a student who just got started.
And there's messaging on the homepage that kind of addresses that, right? Like, are you at this level? Like, here's some things that you could.
That ties back into even when we had our logo.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Right.
Color-coded.
So go to the color-coded cross. What we can do, Aure, for now, by the way, is potentially have, you know, the whole left brain, right brain, evil, flaky, dorky, which for the first time I successfully unveiled a beta of that on, during the How conference, which again I'm very grateful that they invited me to speak at the conference. And I had people in the audience just going, "Oh my God, I'm flaky dorky," or "I'm this and this," and like I wish I would have had it as an app, so it would have been faster to do. So why don't we do like a bar on top of where all the episodes are? So on the left, you know, you have all of the left kind of. So the way we did it, if you bring up the logo, there's left, right, top and center.
Right.
And I bring up. I have the logo too, the design.
I have it on my screen.
Let's look at it. Let's zoom in on it. So the right, the red is creative. The left is evil, is business, or more business oriented. The top is more sales oriented, and then the bottom is more technically oriented. So for example, this week in web design covers a little bit of all of them, which is kind of a tough thing. What if we did Aure potentially either a gradient at the top, or since it's 4 quadrants, we do 4 quadrants.
That's what I was
like
thinking.
we do like whatever you want to make them visually, like a circle, a little square, something that has the color coding very subtly, and then we put the columns below for each of the episodes.
Right.
Like on the left side where it's all the sales shows, right? There's marked this week in sales. What's the most left brain shows? This show actually can be left and right, so maybe it's all intermixed. Like you might repeat a show. Is that weird?
That's a good question. I mean, I keep on envisioning this whole thing almost like that club grid, like when you define yourself based on the type of posts you make and referring if you're social. So it feels like the same thing.
But that's being driven by data. So right now what we're trying to do is build it on Drupal without necessarily having it being
Plus it's the first time that the user
seeing that, so they don't know what the hell. Okay, so let's do it this way.
Right.
So let's actually have little circles like
what
this.
What does each one mean, right?
For now, let's just have the episodes in, what do you want, alphabetical, just as they get posted.
Right now that's what it is, just whatever's the most recent.
I like that. I mean, I'm thinking like 4 columns, and underneath each column you have like just a list of like the episodes with
But the problem is classifying them into one of the 4 quadrants.
Right.
It's going to be a pain in the ass, because not all, then you would have to repeat them. So what I am saying is simply have a little circle next to it, and we can have a graphic somewhere below, and it explains it. Right. So if I have this week in web design, I'm going to have all 4 circles with the colors.
Right.
If I have this week in sales, they're not covering creativity per se. So, or you know.
Or are you explaining what that means? Like
we'll have a little graphic on the side that is a what do you call it? A key. We'll design a little key. Simpler. That's a lot easier to do than like.
I almost think like that's the first thing that you need to like. This is who we are, and
here's how our shows are split.
A little something and then shows.
Okay. We have it at the top.
Even if you had each show and it is assigned, like it could have any of those color chips next to it. You know,
yeah, that's what I meant. That each show will have as many chips as it needs.
Rather than trying to fit the show as one element into that grid is just being applied, and it can have multiple.
Correct. So well, we just said. Let's see, we're talking the same. We're saying the same. It's going to stay in the same order it currently is.
Right.
The difference is that now we're going to add a few more kind of pieces of information.
Yes.
So we have the name of the show, obviously, and then we're going to have the however many dots relative to it. And then you were saying, let's put the key right up in front.
Right, and let's say what it's about, so it's kind of like obvious what we're looking at.
I mean, we can have the key on the side, right at the top, or in the front. And then at the top, are we going to keep? If you bring up the PSD, we're going to keep this large highlight at the top, basically.
Which would be the explanation, right?
And okay, so let's start doing it. Let's start doing it. We got the 4 circles. We know what we need to do. So it's kind of similar.
What is this weekend? Give me like a sentence of like what are we looking at?
Let's go to, and then we show my screen.
We have it.
We have both from the show, and we also, and this has been interestingly very very impactful, I think, and I want you to talk a little bit to the impact that it has made to the network and to Jason after we did this exercise. You know, how valuable is this for an entrepreneur to have this level of clarity, you know, in some of these things. So here's the Mad Libs, you know, kind of way that we kind of did it together at the beginning. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Sometimes these things change formatting. It's like an airline, you know. Packages your luggage might shift because of turbulence. So let me see here. There we go. So the This Week in Network provides educational and entertaining video to educate people with direct access to hosts in an intelligent way to help them be empowered and make money. So that's a real clunky way.
Well, let's condense it.
All right, so let's.
Well, it goes back down to that thing that we actually discovered with Jason on the show, way back when he was on, that somewhere along the way, one of us threw out the idea that the whole network is about inspiring, educating, and entertaining.
That's it. You came up with that, actually. He loved it. So what? Let's call that the tag. All right, or the mission. Let's call it a comeback.
Educating. Inspiring, like entertaining, and educating.
The TWI.
Switch it. I would say inspire, educate, entertain.
Inspires, educates, and entertains. But the key also is to ask them what they're getting. What is it that we provide? Provides inspirational, educational, and entertaining. Let's go back to the whole thing, you know. Like if you look at our competitors, you know, Linda, how does Linda say it? Treehouse just launched, which Aure loves. Online software training videos that really work. And I was reading something really good from noted and you can bleep it, asholic is the word I would use, Dave McClure. Yes. He had the deck for that I tweeted the other day on how to get funded by a VC, right? One of the things is how to get what you do really brief. Was it that deck or was it another deck? Regardless, how short can you get what you do? And really concise, the value you provide, to who you provide it, etc. So online software training videos that really work, that's Linda. This is a competitive audit that we're doing here live. Let's see, Treehouse, Team Treehouse is the URL. If you guys haven't checked out teamtreehouse.com, entrepreneur Ryan Carson, great creative type of guy who has shifted into education. I love the very elegant, you know, 1, 2, 3 here. Basically, watch videos, unlock badges, then, you know, make money, get your dream job. We have to have that structure of what is it that you do, how the experience is, which is the structure of our thing, and then what is it that you get. So I like inspire, educate, and entertain from a structural standpoint as it pertains to both the tagline. I almost like educate at the end, like inspires, entertains, inspires, and educate. You get the people because it's entertaining. You inspire them with the guest or with whatever it is, the host, and then you really end up educating them. Like they might not even know it. No, that's not true. Whichever way we want to structure it, but
how about like shows that inspire, educate, or however order entrepreneurs or something? Like what do we provide? Who is it for?
Who is it for, etc.
Right.
I think the audience can be implicit. We don't necessarily have to call them out per se. Like I like the way Treehouse is calling out the audience. So, well, actually, you don't even know what those people do. Oh, well, no, that you do. So without Treehouse, I couldn't have a career. I wouldn't have a career I have, let alone a job I have. No one makes web development more accessible. Jonah Bailey. He's a web developer. That's what he does. So here's a girl saying, I've learned more about the web industry from Treehouse than I did in 4 years of university. We had someone who dropped out of graduate school because of the show. Online education is pimpy. It's actually it's really awesome. I'm stoked. All right, so enough of me being stoked. Aure, read it back to me.
Shows that inspire, educate, and entertain entrepreneurs. It can be whatever.
Let's leave it like that for now. Okay, fine. Fine, that's great.
And I would even caution entrepreneurs because the show itself, Inspire, Educate, Entertain is specific because right now the network is doubling down on entrepreneurs and people who are looking to start new careers. But the goal of the network is not to be that.
But so let's talk about it. So what let me bring up some of my old school Evil Businessman stuff that I'm giving to Jason for free. The one sheet for Evil Businessman had a really good. It was called the new. I called it Evil Businessman one sheet. I think I called it the. So this was an investment one sheet, and also here it is that I did. For guess what? Online video-based education for entrepreneurial people, and it wasn't just for entrepreneurial people. So that's what. Let me find the other. Come on, wonky computer.
I took entrepreneurs out. I think that's.
So here we go. Visual business education for the new entrepreneur. Now, what I refer to that is just people who either are switching careers and have no choice. But let's just for the 21st century workforce.
Yeah, I like that.
Make it like, look, here's the reality of what's happening. People are not going back to jobs. The digital space is huge. You know, whether it's music with Pensado's Place, whether it's sales, whether it's social media, whether it's web design, whatever it might be, it's really the 21st century. Pensado's talking about production. The music industry has changed, because of digital. And now do they cover business? No, This Week in Music covers business.
A lot of business.
There we go.
Yep.
So what we should probably have as a gradation, as a grid, is the here. I'm going to draw the grid while we're talking.
What are the four? The red is creative. The blue is business.
Let me draw the grid right now.
Okay, great.
I don't know if this makes any sense, but as we've discovered, since we've started this process, one of the things that's been going across the board for all the shows is that the show spectrum is it a narrative show or is it a technical show? I don't know if that classification helps in this process, but the show.
It's a good question. There's people who hate it when I talk and say, "Shut up, dude." Well, first of all, let your guest talk. And then there's people who just want to see what we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people who want to see the behind. Like you'll see the disparate comments in YouTube and other places. No, it's okay if you talk about the nuances of the business. That's a more advanced person
right.
who really doesn't need to learn how to do
right.
Photoshop or how to do this. They need to know how to deal with their clients or whatever it is.
Well, you talked about Pensado's Place in music, and that's a good example of music is narrative. In terms of they're interviewing people talking about the business, but they're not telling you how to actually go and set up a big cartel site or set up a way to sell your music. Pensado's Place is technical in the sense that he actually is getting in and showing you screen grabs of how to actually mix. So that in terms of like one segment within the network, that's the spectrum that narrative technically kind of falls in.
So I totally get it. And here's how I broke it up in my business plan for Evil Businessman, in the deck that I made. If you bring it up, you got the basics, you got advanced, so learning core concepts and ideas, then deep concept comprehension through exercises. So actually doing, so this is technically an exercise. Now, if we went further and we actually had the audience redesign something with us live and kind of follow along, that would be the exercise. Insights is the interviews. So one thing we could do potentially split the shows up and have 3 shows.
Right.
Have one that's basics, one that's advanced, one that's insights. That would be smart. Or we can split the show up into those 3 segments across multiple episodes.
If you look back at the Inspire, Educate, Entertain, that almost kind of contains that whole narrative technical thing, and it actually matches almost right up to this as well. Where it's
exactly.
Like inspire and it is kind of the narrative end, and Educate is the technical end, and then Entertain is kind of the thing that goes over the cross of all of them. They all have to be entertaining.
That's awesome. No, so that's content type, right? And by that I mean interview versus basic lesson demo versus like, hey, let's do it. Come along and do it with us. But then we have the audience specific. If we choose to split the audience by brain, by creative versus business, which I kind of like in a way. Again, there's all these organizational kind of components that we're playing with. And Aure, if you bring up the logo, you'll see the colors at the end tips. So you'll have creative is kind of a reddish, maroonish color.
Yes.
Bluish for business, orangey or yellowish for obnoxiousness. Those are psychologically mapped.
What do you call it? What do you call the
obnoxious?
yellow?
Sales. Sales and marketing.
Sales.
You can put sales and marketing actually together. They're kind of very interconnected to some degree.
Okay, how about the green?
And then the green is tech. Is that right? Yeah, that was at the bottom. So orange, green, blue,
Creative
blue, red.
business, sales, tech.
Yeah,
cool.
And what we did, basically what I did for the color coding is, if you look at them, there's two things. One, the decision making was made on 2 points. One, the proximity of the type of color. So if you look at color theory, and if you look at the cross that the logo is making, Aure, can you zoom in a little bit, or like just go, there you go, just so you can see the cross. So yellow and blue are complementary colors, so we didn't put them opposite of each other. Blue is known kind of for business, colder, more passionate, reddish, kind of magenta is known for creative, so that's the thinking behind it. And green, the technical end, part of that was so that we couldn't repeat blue, one, and I like green for technical.
That's just a personal taste thing, but I'd say like green money, and then like tech is
blue. Blue is blue. No, but then the issue would be that you would have complementary colors like opposed to each other, which is not going to look as great.
So like creative is opposed to.
We could if you wanted. The way that I have it for group school is I have creative is like magenta, and business is blue.
Business is blue. Okay, got it.
No. Business is green.
Business is green.
And then blue for tech. And
like, you just don't want to replicate the same.
No, not just replicate it. I like it this way. I don't think nobody's gonna. No, there's not gonna be tech people calling in. Hey, you can't represent it with the color
green. Dude, you're using blue for.
Real quick, we're at a midway point. Can we do a quick update? We're at the 34-5 minute mark. Where are you at?
Where you at, Jacob?
Being as stuck as ever.
What happened?
Just playing with some of the Drupal 7 theming stuff. Well, Drupal 7, was just recently released for Drupal. So Drupal 6 theming. Yeah,
well, tell me about the challenges a little bit, because I've run into people at group school who are creatives, who are getting into Drupal, and they're like, I'm fighting with it. What's the fight?
The fight right now is just I've got a bunch of Drupal 6 sites and some Drupal 7 sites, and I literally came over here from working on the Drupal 6. So I'm like, I could just do that. No, I can't.
Because Drupal 7's changed.
Because Drupal 7 changed their theming engine quite a bit, where like a lot of the little, just spit out an image doesn't work anymore. You got to go through a whole rendering process to get it to
do. But so show us, was there any visible progress at all, or?
Can I ask like a layman's kind of?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, why would you pick Drupal over WordPress, for example?
Well, I mean, it depends on what we're building.
Right.
I mean, WordPress is a great blogging system. It's got a lot of good stuff in it, and I wouldn't ever say don't use WordPress.
Right.
I'm really familiar with Drupal, and what it could do and how powerful it is. It really is a powerful thing. It's got a lot of great forums out there.
Right.
A lot of good backing and just good people that work on it.
Do you think it's like a higher level solution than WordPress?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a higher level solution than WordPress. Is. I mean.
But you need a developer for it, definitely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, WordPress is great if you just want to go, Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons
get in there and just start going at it. You could probably get to where you want if you're not really. You don't have a good sense of PHP and understanding of code, but
cool.
If you do, then Drupal definitely.
Yeah, that's great.
And one of the reasons why we chose it for the network redesign was security, extensibility. Like, can we extend further, and what type of modules are out there existing? So once we put the framework in place, what are we able to do, and how are we able to extend it? The way that I'm looking at it, and if you look at the publishing platform that we're building with Stoffer. Is an education platform. So there's a lot of different, very extensive, and I can't show it right now, but filtering and topics and user-generated content. So it's already, and you know what? Actually, WordPress does have a lot of that possibility. Both have the same amount of possibilities.
I think what you said, like scalability, is key. Like I've worked with WordPress a lot, and after it gets at like a certain size, it's a bit unwieldy.
It can be, but then you have BuddyPress, which is a new thing that actually, you have a bunch of different components, and we've had a bit ago, I've had the chance to be on the phone with the guys from WordPress, partner relationship folks, talking about what can we do, since we're obviously getting into that competitive kind of structure with. But Drupal is becoming more and more, of a force to some degree, even with large corporate clients. I know Disney is switching some of their sites, like corporate sites, to Drupal. So we've been doing it now for a while, and done everything from university sites, like UCLA stuff that we've done for colleges, and education sites like Focus. All that has been Drupal. Different developers and different kind of approaches and scenarios. But I've been impressed by the extensibility. What I haven't been impressed is by the ability to the theming complexity.
We talked about it.
But
like
I've always
isn't
felt
that an issue of like having a developer that's more front end focused than maybe back end, or?
Could, yeah.
It came up a while back.
It could be. I mean, I've had it both ways, where it's easy to theme and it's challenging to theme. And what I realized, and I was thinking about this exactly this morning, was that if you don't follow the process well, like so if you didn't have a good architecture, like good wireframes and good documentation for that, if the content is not ready, it makes the complexity so much more, because you're on your Scrum, and then if you're not using Scrum, then you're suddenly adding exponential variables. I wish I could illustrate that, in some form of graphic. I think I've done it in the past. Like, just imagine you cannot control that. It's like, we have a deliverable on this date. But if you have, so one of the principles of Scrum is that the team is sitting in one room, right?
Right.
Like we're doing here. So he can ask questions and we can kind of give stuff back. So let's get back to work on the homepage. What are you doing in terms of progress?
I'm kind of like setting it up a little bit. I mean, I'm just spitballing here at this point, but I put like...
Can we do a promo at the top and then like actually do like a show promo at the top? But you know what? Do people even come to the website to watch the shows? Or do they go to Justin TV?
That's the problem, is that I would like them, as a producer, to have one place where we can do more messaging that's specific.
But we don't want them to watch the show here. Who the hell? They're going to be watching it, even live. They're going to be watching it. I'd rather them watch it on the cool new thing where you watch with other people. What's it called? Chill. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no.
So here, this should just be messaging.
Yeah.
And our sponsors. So let's use that area up at the top, and we can use it for both. It could be that it kind of switches in between, and then it has a show promo. Would we have? What about a live tab? You know what? Here's what architecturally. Here's what. If I were a 6-year-old, I would say chicken butt.
Chicken butt.
Aure, why don't we have a live? How small can we do the Justin TV embed?
I don't know, but I mean it's.
I'm pretty sure it could be embedded small.
That's probably the opposite direction most people are going.
Let's do versus big.
Yeah.
I'm just spitballing idea. On the right column, you have the live Justin TV feed. This is live now. You can click on it and go to Justin TV.
So you're saying make the live much smaller, just as a kind of something that's sitting around playing. Yeah.
It's there playing all the time.
Right.
It's kind of non-intuitive. People would say, well, make it bigger. No, we want people to come in I watch the show. When I watch the show, I watch it on YouTube because I'm here, so I can't watch it live.
Right.
If you're watching it live, where would people be watching it live?
Justin TV or Chill are the two places where pushing people.
Right, and you're talking to people right now on what?
Justin.
Right. So, is there a reason for having the show live on the homepage? Does anybody ever kind of?
I don't think. I mean.
No, I think it was there as legacy because when we first started, we had less people that were broadcasting.
So let's really be clear on our value proposition because we are not now. People come to the show.
No, the biggest problem is that there's too many places to go and there's not enough consolidation of the actual conversation. Like to effectively watch a show and try to know what's going on, there's 4 places you could be watching potential chat, and each show kind of makes a decision on where they want to spend their efforts at.
I've heard you echo what Jason has said, and I've heard Jason say it. I don't recall when or how. Maybe at that one session we did a bit ago, about it being about the ecosystem and YouTube and Justin obviously for the live. So I think that the site, I'm going to make an executive decision, obviously as a product partner with the This Weekend Network, to really say we're going to actually focus it on messaging. So that top part, no different than a Linda would. The one thing that we might have to add up there, Aure, eventually, it's not just those kind of forward areas. It
can be like a slideshow.
It could be a slideshow. It could be also the host aspect.
Right.
So if we look at here, and again, just for our viewers, so if we go back to my screen, and what I'm doing right now is actually Ryan. I'm parsing out like the inspire, educates, entertains, what type of content potentially would go there, kind of to do a content grid, which we're working on when me and you get together for the during the holidays. I'm coming over for Christmas for your house to talk about the show next year. And then, but then business. What's the other one? I always forget the four. Jeez, business, creativity, tech, and then marketing and sales. Or sales and marketing. What's cool about that, and now this is the star. This is the cross. Sorry, of the show. This is what that is. We could bucket all the shows underneath there multiple times. So we'll have these, and every time we come up with a new show, where does it fit? Like, it would be great to have a This Week in Freaking Development or This Week in Program.
The other way to think about it too is that each show isn't necessarily specifically just one thing. Different episodes.
No, they're multiple.
Right. But like in the future, web design may have more technical things, so that 3 out of the 4 episodes may be way more about educating, but the 4th episode might be completely just inspirational. We're not going to do any demos of product, and that's a different way to think about it.
Perfect.
So that a show doesn't fit into one specific bucket.
So it's an episode.
The episode is that, and then that tagline guides each show in terms of you need to do these 3 things, and it's just a question of proportion.
Love it.
Show.
So it's a question of proportion for the network and for the show. So when somebody sees the aggregate of shows on the interface, they have all the episodes on YouTube linearly, because that's how YouTube offers it. Right. They can come to our site to, for example, the This Week in Web Design page, the show page, and not the episode page. Right. And they can filter by, give me all the technicals, or give me all the demos, or whatever it is.
In terms of guided pathway, and I've used this a lot because it's what we're going back to. If I saw and Robert Haydock and I are talking about this on Twitter right now, or on Justin, that if the shows are still organized, the organization is still by date, because that's the most relevant to people. But there's a quick
filter
coded key that says green is whatever we talk about, inspirational. I know that that's going to be an interview. Blue is probably going to be Aure going in and doing Photoshop, because that's technical. And there's a quick color key that's just the same line, but it's a proportion of like, wow, that episode's all green. I know I want that episode. Oh shit, that episode's blue. I don't need that. And there's a very quick visual, like that color coding becomes a lot more useful, because it's not just once per show as an entirety, it's per each episode. So I know visually I can be like, oh man, I want all the red episodes, because that's all the stuff where they tell me how I can make money. Or that's the green episodes where it's always interviews. And that works across the network. I like that.
I actually like that. So basically, the recommendation is to split the coding by episode, not by show, because you can have a show. Genius, my friend, genius. And what I was just thinking immediately was about Lynda.com, because she does have that to some degree. Yeah. And I know she's coming out with more business or with more strategic content. But then there's all the how to do stuff like Photoshop and Illustrator, websites, programming, Word, software specifically training. Then there is the studio visits and all this kind of stuff, which are inspiration, right? And then you have the more strategic stuff, which is business. Then you have wow, that's great. So we're basically restructuring, and if someone from, I'm pointing here and I have no idea what I'm pointing at. If someone from Lynda.com is watching, we're giving you actually the structure that you should probably be also using for structuring your shows. So unfortunately, we're doing it live on the air, so there's no competitive advantage other than execution. We got to get it done quickly. So Aure, I love that. So basically, the episodes on the homepage, eventually you'll be able to filter, and I know for a fact that Drupal has great filtering, and Solar Search, which is a type of search plugin that can allow us to do that. So give me all of the things, but that's going to require us to code them. So meaning we're going to have to code the episodes per that, or actually shoot like that. So me and you next year can say, we're going to shoot 90% or 70, 80% of our episodes are going to be technical.
this show, as a majority in terms of the proportion, works the best when it's technical. But after X amount of technical shows, we've earned
cleanse your palate with a little bit of an
we've
interview.
earned the trust and respect of our audience to earn an inspirational episode.
Yeah.
And then really the magic of finding the audience and then finding the voice of the show is that we can gauge the proportions based on what the viewers want. We start off saying this is what we think it should be, but we have people like Robert. We have someone who just came on by watching, I believe it's Accolade K, so that he just caught a few shows a week ago on YouTube, and now he's caught up, and now he's watching live. We can start getting the feedback and start adjusting proportions based off of...
What's his username?
A-K-E-L-A-D-K, Accolade K.
Can you ask him to give us his name?
Yeah.
That's a crazy username for me to be. It took me a while to figure out that Robert Haydock's name, his username, I forget what his username is on Skype. I'm sorry, on CrowdTuner, yes.
But that's the benefit of doing this process, right? Like before we started doing this, we were making every kind of possible show without even knowing what we were doing or how you adjust it after the fact. But now with Inspire, Educate, Entertain, with the kind of color-coded grid, all the producers, all the people working on the show know what the base proportion should be, and they know when they're making a special episode because it's slightly different. And theoretically, the viewers, in a simple way, will have some type of guided pathway that once they see this repeated over and over, they're like, oh, I really liked any episode that was read. I don't even know why. I don't know what it was. We know the internal structure is.
Love it.
But the more you use, the more you realize, like, I'm going to stay away from green episodes because I never got it.
And we can even color code the episode on the color graphics on the look right here. If you're a producer, actually, let me see what. If you're in the producers program, right here next to this Ethernet cable, or actually better yet, right there. Here's the people who are producers. Associate producers, Daniel Bradley, Alex Easing, David Cohen, Benjamin Thompson, Lars Peterson. Our supporters.
Lars is the viewer who I've been talking to just now, who just became a producer.
Lars, welcome to the producers program. Paul Scheck, William Sorden, Evan Kosowski, Hayden. You guys are awesome. Everyone who participates in the producers program. And I've met some of you personally at conferences or here in LA. Some of you have done tours of my office. Anything you need, let me know, and I'm really happy to help. I'm actually going on the Google. I figured out my whole password thing. I'm going more frequently and answering questions. So during the holidays, take advantage of that. I'll be at home for the whole last week of December, and we have a pre-taped episode. So take advantage. Ask questions. What do you want to do for next year? What are your goals? This is the one thing I want to have tweet. Regardless of whether you're a freelancer or whether you're a freelancer or whether you're a small boutique or whether you're a startup, whether you're switching careers from banking to web design because it's so awesome. Two things. One, what are your goals? Let me know on Twitter. My goal for next year, for 2012, in addition to buying shotguns and water and getting ready for the Mayan calendar to end, that's a joke. I'm launching Group School, the video portion of it, online. So we've already done a lot of Group School workshops. I'm going out and I'm beginning to evangelize about Group School, both at corporations, but also with angel investors and looking at some institutional investors, even though it's too early probably to even look at that. And then the second question, aside from what are your goals, tweet me that. Sharing your goals will help obviously get there a lot faster. The second part, I completely forgot what it was that I was going to say about the second part, but just share the goals. It would be great to be able to help people get to those goals, whatever they're doing. So another check-in, any luck?
No, just I'm honestly messing with all the images, trying to get them to...
But is there anything we can see?
Or
can we watch you?
Nothing special.
If you want to see
code,
we can see that. That's awesome. So explain to me a little bit, the relationship between, between the visual components of Drupal and then the functional modules of Drupal. Like how are they represented on the back end? Like as you're actually messing with them. So for example, how are the files structured, etc.
Well, right here, what I did is I put them all into the all folder. So what Drupal allows is so you could separate it into different sites that you have running. You could all have them running on one Drupal core, so you don't have to go update like 5 different sites. You just update the one, and all the core stuff gets updated, which is cool. Right here, we're only going to have the one site running, so I have it in the all folder, so just all the sites. And then it separates out into modules and themes. Modules being the code and the hard stuff. Themes being the front end. CSS, the JavaScript. And it's kind of a pseudo model view controller kind of setup, which is an architecture and coding.
So from an architectural standpoint, at an application perspective, if this is kind of the Drupal core, let's say, and I only have one site, right? And I'm doing this almost as a site map.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have separate. Here, I'll use the red ones as an illustration. I'm gonna have one separate side for the CSS and the theming.
The theming,
and then
right?
One
and the other
separate side
for all the modules.
For all the
modules,
modules,
right?
So it all basically then it all kind of assembles itself, obviously, on a page level, but all the modules and all the functionality per se will be here. Where does content live? Like, where do images?
The content lives all into the database. So,
so then it's pulling from here. This is pulling from so the database is down here.
Yeah, the database is down there, and what you do is you set up the different content types that you want in your site. Like for our example, we got a show type, which would have all the information about the show, and then an episode type, which would have all the information about all the separate episodes. So those two different content types get created, and they get saved in the database and linked together. What the code is going to do in the modules and stuff is go to the database and gather up all of our information. And once you have that all like nice and, throw that into a bucket, all nice and organized, hand it to the theme, and then the theme takes it all out. And
spits it out.
Yeah.
So here's a question, guys. Are we going to make it? Are we going to make it, or are we going to have to cut and replan? We can do a sprint review next week. Next week is the last show before the final sprint. I mean, this is all one sprint with 6 episodes, so it's like almost like a 6-day sprint. We're in the final countdown. Do you think?
Yeah,
but once you fix this stuff, it's kind of like all comes together.
I mean, it just, it's almost like just trying to get that rock to, just get over the top of the hill.
And once we're over the hill,
it all rolls. Yeah.
So what can we do to help if we want to actually get the homepage in? So do we think that? So for right now, I think I'm happy. And let's recap. I'm gonna show them real quick. The episode page, actually live, and I can log into it potentially.
I had a bunch of stuff going on. Hold on, let me.
Let's get to look at broken pages.
Yeah.
And so those are your directories are on the right.
Let me rename this back to the show, all right, so. It's
so the show.
My main problem.
We got both. Well,
right. So I just need to get the image to pop up here, and then fix those 2 images, which would be the show page. Once there, then we can, I guess click here, and this would take me to an actual episode.
Great, to an episode. Sorry.
Right.
So the show page and the episode page, we kind of have them there.
Yeah, and then the home page would just need to get built out. And
what's the one barrier that we have to what's the one thing we have to get done on the show page on this page?
To get honestly, it's just the imagery. Really, it's
and then after that, everything else is there.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so let's try to get that next week. And then by then, Aure, let's see the design real quick.
Yeah.
Where you're at with
check out the home page.
So here to wrap up. Well, that's kind of cool. Oh, so you decided to put that on the side versus on the top?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like YouTube and all these big kind of like video. It's just the video when you get there. It's the programming. I mean,
but YouTube on the homepage has the biggest video?
Yeah.
Really? Now?
Yeah.
Like today?
Yeah.
I'm not being incredulous, but with the new redesign, which the YouTube redesign is pretty awesome.
Yeah, like I went there and I logged out, and the first thing I see, obviously the video then.
Can you bring up my screen, guys? Hold on, let me put my Chrometa time in here. What is this? This week in web design. I actually have it as show, I think, in my. So let me log it. Hold on. But that's an ad, dude.
No. Go back to it.
This is the homepage. What I have. I'm logged in.
Oh, no,
so
I logged out.
Sign out.
Yeah.
I'm logged out too, and it just the
it
top
turns
of the
into
ad.
like a banner and stuff. But when you first get there, it's just video.
Yeah, but it's video like as a list. And it has all the
No, you're not looking at what I'm looking at.
What are you looking at?
Let me check.
Let's bring up what you're looking at because...
Oh, you mean like that?
Yeah, there you go.
That's an ad.
Well, totally. I mean, but that could be an ad for like This Week in Web Design.
Oh, but that's not functional. I mean, if you close the ad. Okay, so what it's doing is bringing programming all the way to the top.
Right.
So I would say then, here's what I would say. Go back to us, to what we're doing.
I think this is your screen.
Here's my challenge. let's look at it from a user. Let's do the user story. From a user point, and we need to wrap, but from a user standpoint, I'm going to come here. I want to see what the breadth of shows is as fast as possible. Right. So I think we should bring up to the surface, and I think you can. Google will allow you to customize your page and probably configure stuff, your favorite stuff, now that it's pretty fancy in advance. I think for us, and again, I'm going out on a limb, that even if we just had a grid of shows, well, you know what, Mahalo has 1 show featured and 3 shows. I prefer that. Yeah. Like I prefer, but we're not going to be able to build that in this first iteration. So might as well. So you're saying let's just leave a thing up at the top.
And then we have the grade at the bottom, and then we have on the side like the Justin TV and the key.
Okay. And the key. All right. Let me see it again. I guess I can't argue with that. But what I'm thinking is that we want to bring in the whole grid, or maybe that's when you're logged in. When you come in, you already have a grid of all your shows, and it's just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like how you can turn it off in YouTube. Like maybe you can
like
do that
the ad.
Like, it just,
like you can go. Whoop.
And then this black area kind of collapses, and all you have is the grid of shows.
Okay. How hard is that? It won't be in this sprint.
I've been so into actually trying to get some stuff. I don't understand what the whole colors are about.
Oh, that's
I
okay.
might have to go watch the show when I'm done here to watch what you guys are talking
That's a good way to recap. So we need to wrap.
It's like tagging, pretty much.
We need to wrap. Next week, again, let's aim at completing this page and at finishing the design. I think that the color tag is going to be an interesting question on how to do it.
I think having the show pages and episodes are the most important thing for what we're talking about for showing that this is what it's going to be like the experience. I think the homepage is important enough that it's something we should be speeding through.
Right. So we can potentially next week, if we get Tony Wong to maybe cut the sprint into these 2 pages, and then put that into the next sprint, like put the homepage into the next sprint.
If the
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
okay.
polish. I'm going through that right now, where it's like, look, do we cut a feature and polish what we have so that we can complete it?
It's so important in terms of what we were just talking about. As do we want people coming here to watch it, or do we want people here to come for messaging? Like that's a scary conversation for us to be having at week 4.
Well, no, but you know what? That happens. That happens in real life. So there's only one way I answer that question. That I don't know. That I know what I kind of feel that from a user standpoint they might want, but let's put it in front of them. Right. So the way you would answer that is literally by doing a 2 and then saying, who do you like, what do you like? And if it's a startup, you can put 1 out, and then next week put the next one out, and then look at the metrics, and bam, you already know which one it is. That's
I feel like
simple.
What we're talking about for episode and show page, I'm totally on board with, and I'm really excited about the whole, what you and I were just saying about color coding and organization versus categorization.
Brilliant.
And I feel like that needs the time to let it actually.
Well, if you're a user, that sounds like freaking Tron. If you're a user or you're a program, if you're a viewer or a user and you have an opinion as to what you would like on the This Week in Network homepage, every time you go to the This Week in Network homepage, what do you prefer? Having a video up there or just having thumbnails of all your most recent favorite shows, and just you can find your show and go to it. Drop us a tweet at This Week in Web. It's the Twitter for the show is This Week in Web. You can tweet me at Jose Cavalier, which might come up. There's This Week in Web right here. And just let us know. Do you prefer like YouTube style, where it's just here's all the content, bam, on the homepage, or and you just use search and go to something? Or do you prefer it being, hey, show us either a promo for the most recent show? What would you prefer? And at the end of the day, we need to test it and figure it out. So thank you guys for spending today's hour with us live or on YouTube, wherever you're watching us. We really appreciate it. Please check out the Producers Program this week in webdesign.com. And come back next week. Join us, and we're going to continue this in week 5 of the live, putting a lot of pressure on the development team. Jacob.
Hope not to
We'll get
disappoint.
there. No, you'll get there. So we'll see you guys next week when you're going to continue watching us work.